Hello and welcome to the Uncuckables for another week. I'm Tim Wilms, Editor-in-Chief of the Unshackled, and I'm here as always in the studio with Dave Hiscox, Editor of XYZ. How are you?
Very good, Tim. Thanks for having me. And Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
Yes, this is Epstein 34.
Yes.
And we've got James Fox Higgins from The Rational Rise as well.
Glad to be here again, guys.
We all unmuted our microphones at the exact right time.
We're very good at this now.
Yes, exactly.
Total pros.
Zoom attack.
Somebody said turn up the volume.
Yourself, yeah.
How's that now?
I'm still boomer.
So I think it would be nice to begin this show by acknowledging the traditional custodians of Western civilization, the European people who brought modernity to the world.
Absolutely. It might be argued we brought modernity to a little bit too much of the world.
I think
I wouldn't mind
that's
taking a bit
yeah.
of it back. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to throttle back a little now.
Yeah.
Now, I have adjusted the microphone levels because people will have noticed who are regular viewers of the Uncuckable is a slight hissing noise when we've done the live stream. We've managed to find the problem and exterminate it. It was a faulty 3LXR cable. So actually now when we turn it up too loud sometimes, but these gains are really sensitive. So it's either you can't hear us or you can hear us really loudly. So when Dave and I laugh, you'll be able to hear us really loudly.
Massive gains, bro. All about the gains.
Constant gains.
Yeah. Live for them.
All right, what have we got on the... Oh, and before I start, I should put the entropy link in again, in case you have been living under or tuning into the mainstream media and you don't know what entropy is. It's this YouTube enhanced software where you can ask us questions and you... best of all, can send through super chats. Google doesn't get a cut and entropy takes less of a cut, and we can also do poll questions. YouTube talk. I've got a really doozy of a poll.
What have you got?
Did Jeffrey Epstein kill himself? Yes. No. Something along those lines. Yes.
I'll talk while I'm like.
Yeah. Okay.
Whoa.
How's the Rational Rise going, James?
It's going slow at the moment. I've just been so busy with other work and family stuff over the last few months, but I'm getting really pumped because moving to a new area, back to my old studio that I began the show in, and that happens in only a month's time now. So once that happens, my entire schedule changes, and I'll be focused virtually full time on Rational Rise TV and doing my own show again. So I'll have a lot more YouTube content coming out from December. So yeah, I'm getting extremely excited about that transition.
Yeah, brilliant. Tell you what, if I could, I would write far-right hate propaganda all day, every day. But
well,
that day
maybe
will
we'll
come.
We'll get you there. We're building slowly, all of it. And as you guys know, we had our first payday from Rise TV. The system has been thoroughly tested. It works. We've got a whole bunch of paying subscribers there now who have access to our full archives of XYZ Live, of Tim's Wilms front, although that's a little out of date and I've got to get that up to date. But we've got all the Uncuckables on there, all of my stuff, Rational Rise, and I'm still in the process now of developing a few new shows. There's going to be an art show launching next year. Art training, training videos on how to use various styles of painting and sculpture and lino printing and all kinds of things. So we're really trying to create good, true, and beautiful content and be champions of the light there. And Dusty Bogan is now fully operational on Rational Rise TV as well. So the tribe is growing, and it's an exciting place to be.
Yes, because my Wilmstrine episodes, they're quite large, so I can't...
And frequent.
Yes. I'm on 2 to 3 nights a week. I just had another epic show last night with Martin Hartwig, where we summarised the Epstein meme campaign and also the comprehensive summary to date on the groyper war, which it changes every 24 hours.
I'm super excited about the next 24 hours because I think tomorrow, at least in the States, I don't know when that is for us, but Ben Shapiro is the next guest that the groypers are converging on. So that's going to be a really interesting set of Q&As if they do them.
I'd love to hear him
film them.
I'd love to hear him respond to questions about the USS Liberty. That'd be quite amazing.
Yeah, man. And you know, Nick Fuentes on his stream today, you know, warned the groypers. He said, look, you know, Ben's the big gun, like, of you got to be really careful. Don't show up lacking. Know your stuff. Ask questions about something that you can actually get into a proper debate with, because, you know, we all know how, I guess, dexterous Ben Shapiro is as a debater, at least tactically. You know, he's full of shit and he's a liar, but he's a very good debater, rhetorically, very quick, very fast spoken, and you know, he kind of just runs in really quick and shakes a lot of people up. So
he doesn't take a breath.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And he's so serious and stern and quick spoken that he can knock a lot of people over just through his style of debating, you know, notwithstanding the content of what he says at all. So hopefully that, you know, we get some excellent groypers up there and they're really prepared for it, and they embarrass him. That would be great.
Well, they got destroyed by Andrew Neil on the BBC back in May, where Ben Shapiro, he could answer the questions, but he was just triggered by Neil's aggressiveness. He's like, why don't you just admit you're a leftist? I have no idea who you are. And he didn't know that Andrew Neil is the chairman of the Spectator. And then there's this viral clip of Ben Shapiro going around where he's talking about rising coastal sea levels, and he's like, why don't you think that the people who own those properties are just going to sell and move away? And then someone breaks through the screen and says, sell them to who, arsehole? Which is, yes, no one challenged him that at the time.
The footage I remember of him is seeing him go toe-to-toe with Piers Morgan, back when Piers Morgan was still a lefty.
Yeah.
It was actually quite interesting.
Yeah.
Like that, I watched about an hour of it, and he doesn't take a break, but it was one of those early indications that Piers Morgan had something to him, because he was able to keep up even from a lefty point of view, and always just sort of keep going bang 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 straight back at him. So you basically got to with guys like that, you just got to concentrate and just go bang in.
Yeah. And I guess, you know, the other thing too is with a guy like Ben Shapiro, if I were facing him in a Q&A situation, you know, hopefully the people managing the microphones and stuff will be willing to be patient with the questioners, because you know, you don't have to try and match the pace of somebody like Ben Shapiro. You can just take a breath, take your time, and all they've got to do, the whole tactic that the groypers are using that's working so well, is they're just asking the right questions, the questions that these fake right pseudo conservatives can't answer. You know, stuff about the aid to Israel, stuff about the attack on the USS Liberty. All of those sorts of questions are unanswerable, and they're terribly embarrassing. And, you know, all that people like Dan Crenshaw have been able to do is just go, I know what you're doing, you're an anti-Semite, you know, but the content of the question is very clear. And, you know, why aren't they willing to answer it? That's the kind of embarrassment that's working so brilliantly with this tactic. And it's Nick Fuentes as a general for these guys has been very impressive in how he's sort of coaching and encouraging them.
Because I watched his show today. It's basically much worse. A must-see viewing now on YouTube, America First with Nick Fuentes. Make sure, well, there's only one America First now on YouTube, because Sebastian Gorka, who also hosts a show called American First, called for YouTube to ban Nick Fuentes, and Sebastian Gorka, he ended up getting his YouTube channel terminated for copyright infringement, because the Imagine Dragons, the tune that he uses, they didn't like him using their music on his show, so multiple copyright violations. Sebastian Gorka, his America First channel is back up, but the archive has been wiped because it infringes on copyright.
What a rookie error, hey, to just like take somebody's song without their permission and use it. You know, like that's why, you know, at the Uncuckables, we compose our own and record our own music. And that's why in all our programs, we apply our diverse skill set to put music to what we're doing.
Yes.
Do you want to know something really, really funny? Like, I've played piano for 33 years. Like, I've gone to university. I've taught piano for well over a decade now. It took me about 3 or 4 episodes to realize that that thing that you recorded for our intro music was actually Advanced Australia Fair.
Oh, I was thinking about, and maybe when I'm back in the new studio, I'll do it. But I'd like to do a full version with all the verses of the Australian national anthem, and maybe we could do a bit of maybe we can crowdsource some voices from our viewers. Because what I'd like is for it to sound like "Hey, Tommy," like a pub crowd singing it. So you need lots and lots of voices for that to layer it up. So maybe we can get our viewers to send into an email address. Them singing the national anthem to our track, but it'll be rock all the way through, heavy drums and like a pub metal version that we could use as a waiting screen or just play it at the end of each show or whatever.
I think that's a great idea.
And did you know that? Do you recognize that that's my voice saying the Uncuckables?
Yeah, I figured it had to be.
Yeah. But it's quite I'm not sure if you did it like the Uncuckables. Like I know it's your voice, but it's
the Uncuckables.
Is that how you said it? Or how did you actually?
It's unmistakable. Yeah.
Program it to be you, but not you.
Or you just get close to the mic and the Uncuckables.
It's not as good as
it's called
original.
Acting. No, I perfected it once. Perfection can only happen once, usually, with these things.
We've got our first super chat on entropy for the evening from Fraser Hopwood, who's a regular viewer of this program. $5 thank you. Sorry being about of late. See you
next Tuesday.
Yes. We won't be like a Q&A and just read out constant profanity. A bit of profanity is okay, but not from, Miss advocating of mass murder,
Is
genocide.
it El Wahawi, something like that?
Mona Ethahalwi. Yeah, something like that.
That's it.
Yeah, well done, Tim. That was great. I wouldn't have been able to pronounce that. And he's got it wrong. It's actually see you next Thursday because Uncockables is on Thursday. So. Yeah.
Yes. Well, you said that. You made the mistake.
Yeah. No, well, he wrote there, see you next Tuesday, but it's actually... He wrote
the initials for see you next Thursday.
Yeah, I see it. It needs an H for Thursday.
Peter, sorry, Dave, there's a question from you from somebody called Peter.
Didn't we ban him?
Read out the question.
Nice jumper, Dave. Does it come in a men's?
Isn't that just from, what is it, that Daggy Men's store, that jumper?
I don't know.
I like that jumper. I think it's rather nice.
Great jumper.
And, it's only tight because of those massive gains, right?
Yeah, that's it. Working on the guns. Yeah.
Jaden Smith has said, have you blokes seen the video on Nick's Twitter feed where a questioner gets cut off from asking his question by Dan Crenshaw as soon as he mentioned June the 6th, 1967. Now, in case you don't know Dan Crenshaw, he's a Texas Republican congressman. I refer to him as Eye Patch Man because when he was serving in the Middle East, Islamic terrorists blasted off one of his eyes, and so he wears the eye patch. So he's been doing a few Turning Point USA events, and they've been asked... Probably the best question was because the Congress has passed a law now that if you're a business and receive government funds, you have to agree not to support the boycott, divestment, sanctions campaign against Israel. And he asked, isn't that a violation of the First Amendment that the government is limiting your speech to receive money? And he said that's anti-Semitism.
That's deflection, and that's bullshit, and he's a liar. And he's got a new name that I saw on Twitter that I think is fantastic. It's Zyoclops.
He's taken the eye patch off. He's got
amazing.
Some...
Isn't that great?
Yes.
Zyoclops, I love it.
It's like some light blue aqua eyeball that he's got underneath. So he has got a fake eye underneath.
Oh, it's a fake eye, right? Yeah. No, nobody wants to see that.
I love the way that
he lost it.
I love the way that they're exposing Conservative Inc. by making Conservative Inc. give standard SJW answers. Like that's not how conservative answers. And that's
conservative
does.
I played it last night. I'm not sure if you want me to play it again tonight. The first foreign aid to Israel question that Charlie Kirk got.
Yes, I think I've seen that on Red Elephants. It's worth showing. Yeah.
Yep. So I'll just bring it up there because this is what started it, and Charlie Kirk, he did his best to shut it down. Which basically it exposed that. Here we go. Here it's further down here. Yes, Charlie Kirk.
Sure. So I have a question. So from America First perspective, why do we give $3.8 billion to Israel, which is more aid than we've given to Africa, more aid than we've given to South America, and more aid than we've given to the Caribbean combined, which is home to 1 billion poor people, especially when they deliberately attacked the USS Liberty in the 1970s?
That is incorrect. Do not peddle conspiracy theories in our event. That is not acceptable. Do not say that.
Okay, Dean Rusk disagrees with you, and he was the Secretary of State at the time, but that's fine. And then the second part is also, you have the Apollo incident in which they illegally stole weapons-grade uranium. The CIA has reports on this.
Anti-Zionist, anti-Semitic
No, I'm not
rhetoric.
anti-Israel. I'm just asking from America First perspective because it's not in our interest. They act against our interest.
Remember the short question part?
Sure. I mean, how is it in our interest that we give this money to Israel?
All right, so it's required that they have to buy American weaponry. Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, the only place where all 3 monotheistic religions are allowed to peacefully practice. It's the only country in the Middle East where all 3 monotheistic religions are represented in their government. It's the only place in the Middle East that has any appreciation for LGBT rights whatsoever. It's the only country in the Middle East that doesn't throw homosexuals off the top of buildings when they find them. It is the only partner that we have in the fight against radical Islamic terrorism. And the subtext of your narrative could be extrapolated to say, well, why on earth would we have a partner like Israel? Guess what? The world's a better place because of Israel.
There you go. So, but the questioner got that the USS Liberty incident said it was in the 1970s. It was during the Six-Day War, which was in 1967. He might have been getting confused with the Yom Kippur War, which was in 1973. But do you know what the Apollo incidents that he's talking about with the CIA?
No.
Okay. Yes, I should have looked that up in the past 24 hours, but I didn't know we were going to play that again. James, do you know what that is?
No, I don't actually. But the USS Liberty is the most significant anyway. And I'll just read something from well, it's actually from Info Galactic, which I prefer to Wikipedia. But in 2002, Captain Ward Boston, JAGC, U.S. Navy Senior Counsel for the Court of Inquiry, said that the Court of Inquiry's findings were intended to cover up what was a deliberate attack by Israel on a ship that the Israelis knew to be American. And of course they did. Of course they did. In 2004, in response to the publication of A.J. Crystal's book, The Liberty Incident, which Boston said was, quote, an insidious attempt to whitewash the facts, Boston prepared and signed an affidavit in which he said that Admiral Kidd had told him that the government ordered Kidd to falsely report that the attack was a mistake, and that Boston and Kidd both believed the attack was deliberate. On the issue, Boston wrote, in part, here's a quote, the evidence was clear. Both Admiral Kidd and I believed with certainty that this attack, which killed 34 American sailors and injured 172 others, was a deliberate effort to sink an American ship and murder its entire crew. Each evening, after hearing testimony all day, we often spoke our private thoughts concerning what we had seen and heard. I recall Admiral Kidd repeatedly referring to the Israeli forces responsible for the attack as murderous bastards. It was our shared belief, based on the documentary evidence and testimony we received firsthand, that the Israeli attack was planned and deliberate and could not possibly have been an accident. Now, we weren't planning to do our show on that, but it's a big conversation and there's a lot of information out there, and it's absolutely not a conspiracy theory or a lie, and Charlie Kirk is an absolute bullshit artist for shutting that down. So you can't peddle conspiracy theories here. It's fact. Everyone knows Israel attacked the Liberty. All of the relevant documents show the attack happened and it was Israel. Now the question on motives, or whether it was a mistake or a communications error or any of that, you can have a discussion about for sure.
Well, James Vince has done a really good response to Charlie Kirk's answer on that, and he's actually interviewed survivors of the USS Liberty, and he's got them. This is them saying it. that the Israeli jets did multiple passes over the USS Liberty before the actual attack occurred, and they could actually see the pilots' faces. So the Israelis knew that the USS Liberty was a US ship. It was absolutely clear as day. Yeah.
The Ron Paul Institute, I read an article by them on the USS Liberty incident where the Israelis, when they torpedoed it, had Egyptian flags. They were trying to frame Egypt for it. And the United States, they wanted to cover up that this was deliberate. They even turned down aid to save the Liberty from the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union offered to help rescue them. They said no.
Yeah.
And of course, Ron Paul he's the 2008, 2012 Republican presidential hopeful, who we came fourth in 2012, basically reinvigorated the United States and global libertarian movement. So hardly a crank.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think James Vince on Red Elephants also read out the statement from the former US, was it not Defense, Secretary of State?
Yeah. And yes, I mean
McNamara, wasn't it? Was he defense?
No, not McNamara. The guy that
it's the one that the guy mentioned in the question. Yeah. You know, the facts are clear, and everyone knows that it happened, and it was Israel, and you know, the question of motives is an interesting one. I mean, I've heard people who've done reports on this and writing about it, suggesting that maybe it was a political litmus test on Israel's part to say, can we get away with this? You know, is America in the palm of our hands, as we'd like it to be? Have our efforts to, you know, infiltrate the culture and the government of America succeeded, such that we could murder 34 of their citizens and then go, oops, sorry, it was an accident, no hard feelings, and get away with it? And they absolutely got away with it. You know, like any other country doing that, even if it was an accident.
Well, Saudi Arabia got away with 9/11.
Was it really Saudi Arabia?
Given that 75%.
I think they've been
they've
been mentioning dancing Israelis in these questions as well.
I haven't seen any video
really
evidence of that.
It's a well-known fact. Israelis are great dancers.
I haven't seen. If somebody can dig up this footage, but because that's come back into the public consciousness now, and people are pointing out that Trump in 2016 said, I watched when the World Trade Center came tumbling down, and I watched in Jersey City, New Jersey, when thousands of people were cheering as those towers came down. And George Stephanopoulos, the ABC, what's their show, their morning show? It's This Week, yes, and he used to work for the Clintons, and is the chief political reporter who just killed the Amy Robach. Was upset that the network, maybe George Stephanopoulos had something to do with it, killed her Epstein interview with Virginia Roberts, but I digress for now. But George said to Trump, you know, the police said that didn't happen, and all of those rumors have been on the internet for some time, and some people think that Trump was subliminally referencing the dancing Israelis when he was saying that.
Yes, right. Just finding a way of he does that quite well, just putting that into the public consciousness. I'm glad you mentioned Epstein, because that lines up with what you were saying, James, about whether Israel thought this was a litmus test, whether they thought they had America in the palm of their hands. Because as has been exposed through Mint Press News, and David Hilton's talked about it on XYZ as well, Jeffrey Epstein, yes, his whole purpose was to blackmail people. Then the question is who? And all of these links to Mossad have been exposed to Israeli intelligence. Because Ghislaine Maxwell, her father was...
He was a media mogul in Britain in the 80s.
Yeah.
And he basically bought the Daily Mirror group with the pension fund from his company. He was basically stealing from his employees, and all came crumbling down in the early 90s when his foreign editor was involved in was alleged to have been involved in some foreign gun running. It was really... And then on his... on his ship. It was in the Cayman Islands. It was called the Lady Galay after his daughter. I finally learned how to pronounce it. He fell off and
quite mysteriously.
Yes, and they pulled him up naked, and it was dead.
Yes,
and they didn't interview the crew on the ship who were suspected to be Mossad agents, because he got buried in Israel because
and at a funeral attended by Mossad agents.
Yes, and the fact that because nobody knew about Ghislaine Maxwell until Epstein committed suicide. Nobody knew about her, and so you have these two figures who, because after Robert Maxwell died, his media empire was dismantled. It was completely, but she suddenly pops up 25 years later as and let's not remember Epstein was a maths teacher until one of the parents at the school said, "Hey, I know what would be a good career for you. Why don't you become an investment banker?" And then it made billions. And I was watching.
Amazing.
We Are Change.
He's just so talented.
Yeah, we are Change.
Like he's good at maths. Yeah.
Update on Epstein and. What hasn't been reported is that they haven't found anyone on Wall Street who traded with him to help get those billions.
What's important there is that when Maxwell died,
fell off the ship.
Yes, that lines up with not long after that lines up with the rise of Jeffrey Epstein. So basically, what's been sort of shown through the reports by Mint Press News is that Jeffrey Epstein, his little thing that he had going on was basically a continuation of what Israel had been doing through Mossad, through Maxwell, for decades before.
It's a satanic work. It's the synagogue of Satan, playing on the fact that many people in positions of power and influence in all sectors of the whole Western world, in fact, including the Eastern world and other places. When you are in a position of immense power, when you have lots of money, and when pretty much anything is available to you because of that power and money that you have, all kinds of evil, devilish desires begin to emerge in the human heart. We're not supposed to have that kind of power over others. And so it's a great, and I'm not saying it's a good in the moral sense, but I mean it's a highly effective strategy of subversion to take those people in positions of power and be a pimp for them, to set them up in situations where you can, feed their darkest, their deepest and most evil desires, gather the evidence, and then hold them in the palm of your hand and blackmail them and use that power that you now have over the people in positions of power to steer the political direction of a country that you want to control. It's a very effective strategy of subversion. Unfortunately for the people behind it, if this theory is true about Epstein's involvement with Mossad and whatnot, the people behind it were not counting on the fact that Jeffrey Epstein was going to start getting high on his own supply and get busted, and they had to get rid of him. It all makes sense. I think it's a very rational case. I don't know if that's true, but it makes sense. It all stacks up if it is true. It answers a lot of questions. And now Amy Robach, with her leaked tape that Project Veritas put out the other day, they've broken the internet with it, and she is basically saying a lot of things to support what I'm saying here. And so they really, really hoped, and it looked like they succeeded in making everyone forget about Jeffrey Epstein. He just kind of disappeared out of the news cycle. Oh, too bad, so sad. He hung himself with toilet paper. He's gone. We better move on, And then this has just put the story right back in the headlines, such that Twitter is even blocking the hashtag as it was trending.
Yep.
So there's some really fishy shit going on here, and hopefully the leaks continue. Hopefully people on the inside begin to speak up more, and we'll see what happens.
James O'Keefe is you got to give a lot of credit to James O'Keefe. He's just
but haven't you seen Hunter Avalon's latest videos that James O'Keefe, he just selectively edits all of his exposés and it's all fake? Didn't you see that from Hunter Avalon? Because he says big tech censorship against conservatives is not real. It's a hoax, fake news.
Oh, I guess, I've just been owned, huh?
We have got well, it's not a question here. It's actually a tip from Thottelgrim. This is the guy who stole the US uranium. This guy, Jonathan Pollard, who was a former this is what Wikipedia says, or is willing to admit to us, is a former intelligence analyst for the United States government. In 1987, as part of a plea agreement, Pollard pleaded guilty to spying for and providing top secret classified information to Israel. He was sentenced to life in prison for the Espionage Act. He's still alive. Well, he was born in 1954, so he's 65 at the moment. So he's still in the Federal Bureau of... Oh, he was actually released in 2015, it says. Parole, let's go down here. This is live. I'll just go down here. Yes, he's on strict parole conditions. He's says something here that they're trying to, because he also had, was it Israeli citizenship, because they want to fund his housing and medical expenses, Israel.
They sound quite grateful, huh? Yeah, okay.
So there you go. Thank you for that, Thottelgrim. And if you have any more relevant information, probably not best send it in the live chat. Just put it through as a question, because we'll relax the rules a bit. You can either submit a question in the question tab on Entropy, or you can send through a tip, because that's just as good as a question. I'll put the Entropy link in again.
Fair call. Yeah, thanks for the info. So yeah, if we going back to what you were saying, like the beta test to see, like, Israel seeing if they could get away with it. The Epstein ring, the Maxwell ring, that's how they get away with it, because they have.
That's just the latest iteration, right, of the control.
Yeah. They literally had key lawmakers in the palm of their hand, because they had dirt on them. That's how you do it.
I remember
and of course, anyone who watches this who isn't, based and red-pilled and across this information, or who are, very much on the other side of the political spectrum, they would accuse us absolutely of, being anti-Semitic just by talking about this stuff. And I mean, that's a ridiculous conflation to make. Because, I personally support the existence of the state of Israel. I just want them to stay out of other countries' business. I'm an anti-colonialist above all else. I'm a nationalist. I believe, that we are where we are. We got here through some very bloody means across history, but we are where we are, and each nation deserves to be sovereign and determine its own future, and not be subverted or dominated or invaded or attacked and controlled by foreign interests. And there's this weird thing now in America where people basically treat Israel as if it's the 51st state of America, and yet it's got a lot more influence than any of the other 50 states do over the federal government. And so it's a foreign nation, and if it does have its fingers, covertly in American politics, which it's clearly evident that it does in a number of ways. That does need to be called into question, and to sort of tie back to where we started tonight, the groypers just asking these questions and seeing how much the guys who, like Charlie Kirk, who are being funded by Zionist businesses and enterprises and lobbyists, people like him and Dan Crenshaw and the others, they can't handle asking these questions, and it's because they're frauds, they're liars, and they're total shills for Israel. So, I totally support the existence of Israel and every other country and nation, but just stay out of other countries' business. And let's talk honestly when there is invasion or subversion happening. I don't think there's anything anti-Semitic about that.
No, but that's what it's been reduced to now, to basically shut you up. You're motivated by anti-Semitism, hatred, and obsession with the Jews. That's the ultimate shutdown, which is why... because the whole... This is what Nick Fuentes has... His line is, we're supposed to be America first, so why are we giving... They're focusing on Israel because that's the most unquestionable one that you're not allowed to question, but they should also ask, why do we supply weapons and give aid to Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, true.
Because that is, well, because Charlie Kirk in the second half is like, Israel, they have great respect for LGBT people there, but Saudi Arabia, of course, doesn't. They behead them.
You could skewer them there, yes.
Yes, so...
Mind you, like, again, I love the fact that Charlie Kirk is you defending Israel on the basis of a liberal value. Like, he's not conservative at all.
Yeah. What's with that?
Because
and,
the neocons they've always just been about foreign policy, globalism, nation building.
Yeah. They're the colonialists.
Yeah,
of
but
America,
that's their line. Because the culture wars have now gone in favor of the progressives. They say we shouldn't be friends with Russia because they're an anti-LGBT country. National Review is probably the peak neocon publication. One of their senior editors, Robert French, has written that child drag shows are just American liberalism.
My freedom of speech.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to get ugly, like that's the unfortunate reality is that we've seen this before in history where countries get so morally depraved and they move so far away from Christian morality, that they begin to, we might be just as far along as Sodom and Gomorrah were in the Bible. We might be at that point now, and if we're not, we're very, very close. We may have even surpassed the immorality of those twin cities, and it ends in a very ugly fashion, and it's a real shame. And the big takeaway at the moment from all the noise out of America about this stuff, particularly thanks to Nick Fuentes and the groypers and the young trad Catholic men who are standing up and speaking up in such a
Wasn't it great seeing him there with the rosary, huh?
I love it. It's wonderful. And it's a brilliant sort of two-pronged move having that rosary, because it's a symbol of prayer, and they're calling on the Holy Spirit to empower them in this process of questioning these giants, and they need the Holy Spirit to move in them to do it effectively, and the Holy Spirit is moving in them. But it's also an affront to the synagogue of Satan, who hate Jesus Christ above all others. It's an affront to the enemy to hold that cross in front of it. And I don't know if it's true or not, but Nick Fuentes said on his stream today that at the latest event, they began screening the people who lined up for questions and started moving people to the back. And they moved people to the back just for holding rosaries. How's that?
Wow.
How's that? If that's true, how's that for an absolute declaration against Christianity and against Jesus Christ?
Well, because the groypers, they're mainly Catholics, because that is the sector of Christianity which has been the most rock solid behind the traditional interpretation of the Bible, and hasn't changed its own practices for its entire existence.
They don't go along with the whole Judeo-Christian values idea.
Yeah. So that's the last
falsehood, I would call it.
Yes.
That's the last major religious
Yes.
institution that the progressives want to basically crack. And obviously they've got an ally in Pope Francis, who has said we can have married priests and we can have male and female deacons.
Yes, and they have ceremony, like they had those idols in the Vatican.
Oh,
How good was it stealing? How good was it stealing those idols?
It was brilliant, and drowning them. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And this is the thing: is that the neocons, people like Charlie Kirk, Dan Crenshaw, Ben Shapiro, these leftists who are posing as right wingers. They're fake right. They're not real conservatives. They're not real Christians. They're anti-Christian, as we're seeing in their behavior, and they're absolutely pro-Israel, pro-Judaism, and they perpetuate the lie of Judeo-Christian values and Judeo-Christian history, and they ignore and deflect and push away any honest discussion about the real history of Christianity and Judaism and how we've moved through history together in various forms of conflict and disarray. These neocons are globalists. You know, they are the colonialists of America, and they hate the idea of America first, because America first means, and this is what, you know, Trump was elected on the platform of, let's stop giving a damn about any of these foreign nations. Let's pull our troops out of all of these useless wars that we don't need to be involved with. Let's batten down the hatches. Let's build our industries. Let's get independent again and be a great country again like we used to be before we got caught up in this globalist lie. And of course, you know, even though they pretend to support Trump, and I don't think Trump is, you know, is the great hero or savior of America. I just think he's, you know, pushing things slowly in a better direction with his rhetoric.
Just look at how much he's freaked them out.
Yes, that's right. And you know, and they have to support him to keep up the illusion that they're right-wingers and that they're conservatives. So they sort of unwillingly support him. But yeah, basically, if you're for spreading freedom and democracy to other nations, and if you're for any kind of foreign interference or intervention, then you're part of the globalist project. And the globalism project is a satanic, it's the Tower of Babel, you know, for the modern world. It's the evil idea of a one world government, one people, the watering down, the graying of the nations into one muddy pool of not, you know, no culture, no richness, no diversity. It's anti-diversity. You know, like, we're, as nationalists, we are the real supporters of diversity. We want a diverse world, and we want every corner of the world to be populated by different peoples, different cultures who stay out of our business and we stay out of theirs. And if we can get along and, you know, visit each other and learn from each other, that's great, but we're not going to interfere with each other. So, you know, they're just absolute liars. I'm enjoying seeing them get burnt down so much.
Yeah. Well, there's footage, actually, again, on Vince James on Red Elephants. He's shown footage of Charlie Kirk giving a speech, and he was giving a speech where there's actually a picture of Theodore Herzl there, and he is talking about America, and he's like this, paraphrasing his words, he said that people shouldn't get too attached to America, the country, because America is an idea, and as long as those ideas exist, you can have America anywhere where those ideas exist.
Magic dirt.
And then
magic documents and magic dirt.
He went even further, and he said that Israel is different because it's based on a religious identity. So he made an exception for Israel, but he said that America is just an idea, and anybody anywhere in the world can be an American as long as they subscribe to those ideas. And
a line that they've repeated is that the only colours that matter are red, white and blue, which is of course a famous
just bullshit rhetoric.
Tune. Yeah. But that Turning Point USA, because Charlie Kirk, he was one of the late conservatives to go on the Trump train. It's basically Conservative Inc. who were at first stopped Trump, then were never Trumpers, and then he won, and the Republican base went around him.
As you can see from like these comments that they've actually got him saying, like, he actually goes completely against the reasons why Trump was elected. Trump was elected on America first, and this guy is basically going against all of that.
They're co-opting the narrative, you know. That's why they grab those, even the label of alt-right, you know, was immediately grabbed and subverted and co-opted and ruined, you know. So none of us really call ourselves alt-right, even though the original message of the alt-right was very clearly a nationalist project. It suddenly degenerated through morons like Richard Spencer into being a national socialist, you know, white supremacy kind of movement, and the media grabbed Richard Spencer and went, he's awesome, he's exactly the spokesperson we want for the alt-right, let's prop him up. And of course, you know, now we need to call ourselves something new. So nationalist, or, you know, Christian nationalist is a better name.
Well,
what's great then is that
just he just defines it as America first. He doesn't put, well, the mainstream media doesn't call us alt-right anymore. They call us far-right.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Yeah. What is great is that they're making that subversion front and center. That's what the groypers are doing. People might have been sort of said in the past, like, you might be able to say, oh, you guys are just conspiracy theorists, like, people aren't trying to co-opt the movement, you're just paranoid. But here they're showing it up like front and center, like they're asking questions that are clearly making them uncomfortable, and they're making the co-option of the nationalist movement absolutely clear to everybody.
We've got a few super chats
like right
that are waiting. There's two from Nick Heath, both for 10 US dollars. So thank you so much for your generosity. Our sovereignty is being eroded after 4 days of listening to the Royal Commission into the disabled. These idiots, and that's not a question. Well, it's a super chat. It doesn't need to
Thank
be
you, Nick. Thank you
a
very
question. I'm sick of all the Royal Commissions. It's basically like it's a virtue signal that we care about this problem that was raised most likely on ABC Four Corners, so we're going to have a Royal Commission to show our concern, and then and basically these Royal Commissions, they have a lot of victims who come forward. I was screwed over by the banks, the aged care, disability sector, and the commissioner issues a report saying these are my recommendations, and normally their recommendations are wrong, and normally recommends just throwing more money or regulation at it, which is not the worst solution. That's what they're lobbying the Morrison government to do in response to the aged care. Just give them a whole bunch more money. No, it's the existing money is being rorted. That's because if you put a whole bunch of free money, I just saw on ABC 7:30 last night about, have you heard of those ghost training centres? They're basically mainly training foreign students for skills, and there's no students there. They're just fake students, and they're getting all the government money. We're actually spending more government money to recover the government money we've already given them for free.
But don't you know, all these immigrants, they boost jobs, like, because, we Australians, we don't appreciate the freedom that we have here. So we need to bring in all these immigrants, and it'll be good for the economy, because they come in here, they hit the ground running, they start businesses.
You can roll government subsidies using both local and foreign students. It's an inclusive rorting.
Yes.
I think foreign is an othering word, Tim, and you shouldn't other foreigners.
Potential Australian, should I say that?
New Australians.
Yeah, new Australians.
No, because that implies they're a citizen, so I should say potential Australians.
No. It's very clear now. All you have to do is land your 2 feet on the magic dirt, and you become Australian. Boom. That's it. It's a powerful thing. Australia's just an idea, and all are welcome. The only colours that matter here are the red, white, and blue. And humans only become humans when they pass through the magic tunnel of the vagina. That segues kind of into the Q&A the other night. Yeah. We were going to talk about the feminist panel on Q&A, but there was one, just from what I was saying there was one audio bite, a sound bite that I grabbed. Excuse me. Let's get through it. And the woman on the far left of the panel, the one who has hair like a bloke, she was talking about ageism, and she was saying, it's really important that we value all human beings, no matter what age they are, from the moment they're born to the moment they die. We need to treat them with equal value. It's just like, wow, they really believe that a human being only becomes a human being when it passes through the vagina or the C-section.
Did she use that?
It's not a human.
She didn't use that word vagina, I assume.
No, she wasn't even talking about abortion or birth, but it's like she just really casually threw in there that human beings of all ages from birth have value, and it's like, what about from conception?
From conception, yeah, that's it.
That's
it. But that's a really interesting
Of course,
point.
the standout was she's a American Egyptian, because even though she seems to hate white supremacists, she called Scott Morrison a white supremacist evangelical, which, because you have to remember that...
I'm pretty sure Charlie Kirk wouldn't consider her an American then, because she obviously doesn't go along.
They're still going
with the
crazy
American
over
idea.
that photo of Scott Morrison's wife when they're posing in front of the daughter with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. They haven't got an explanation yet, and of course Scott Morrison has it's his wife's female friend's husband who runs a QAnon Twitter account, BurnSpy34, and so they're like, they're claiming that there's alt-right conspiracy theorists in the Prime Minister's ear.
Well, if there really were, then he'd be a little bit harder on immigration. He's still out there.
I have so much more respect for him.
He's still out there going namaste. Australia's the most successful multicultural country in the world.
How good's multiculturalism?
Yeah, when he starts changing his language on that, then I'll appreciate it.
Yeah, so she was born in Egypt, but it's interesting. She moved to New York in 2000, became an American citizen in 2011. She's originally focused on women's rights in the Islamic world, but she's expanded that to women.
That didn't work out so well.
Women are oppressed all over the world, and the oppression in the Middle East, it's because of white men in Western nations' foreign policy. But let's have a look, because she's written the reason they had her on the show, it was because of this broadside feminist festival, which is being held at the Wheeler Centre at Federation Square, sponsored by the state and federal government. It's at Melbourne Town Hall. It's being hosted in the City of Melbourne Chambers, which of course they are a sponsor of. So not only did she get a taxpayer-funded platform on the ABC, but she's been brought here by all levels of government. So
yeah, we paid for her to come. We paid for her to come here and tell us that we deserve to die because we're men.
Yes, let's have a look at her direct quote. So this is
from her book. So the point is they knew.
Yes, they'd obviously.
And she was dropping plugs for her book all night and quoting herself, she was such an insufferable camera whore, that lady. I couldn't believe it. She wouldn't let any of the other people on the panel even talk. It was nuts.
Wow. Yeah, let's read what she has to say.
This is from chapter 6 of her book, Violence, the 7 necessary sins for women and girls. Imagine if we declared war. Imagine if we fucked this shit snapped en masse and systematically killed men for no gun by men against other men. Imagine this declaration of war against the patriarchy. So she's basically advocating proposing a final solution to the patriarchy.
It would be a very
solution to humanity. Kill all men.
It would be a very short war.
What we'd end up with, if these woke feminists decided to pick up arms and go out and kill all men, we'd end up with a whole lot of dead feminists the next day, and probably at the hands of a whole lot of good Christian women with shotguns.
By some historians, that the suffragette terrorists, they actually put the cause back of women's suffrage because they were held up as an example. Look at these women committing terrorist acts. If we give them what they want, look what's going to happen next.
It didn't stop them in the end, though, did it? I made.
But hey, if they stalled women's suffrage, then I salute them.
Well,
turns out they were on our side.
the moderate, I think, suffragettes called them out. That's how women got the vote.
So the point I made when I wrote about this on XYZ, the point I made is that these feminists are not fringe extremists of the feminist movement. They're basically pointing out feminist orthodoxy. That you've got feminists all throughout the history of feminism calling for violence. So you had Valerie Solaris, I think it was, who had the Scum Manifesto. That was the Society for Cutting Up Men. She said some disgusting things about men. And you can just go through the quotes again and again and again, whether it's violent things said about men. Just saying we need to destroy the patriarchy, we need to destroy marriage, we need to destroy the idea of what they call heteronormatism. We need more bump sex. Definitely need more bump sex. Basically, they want to destroy everything.
Well, remember her final quote, Mona, saying you need to be less, binary, queer things up.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We shouldn't just pick on her, because there was another panelist who I'll bring up her profile, Nayuka Gori. Now this is her profile from Q&A. Nayuka Gori is a Kiri Gamajara Winjari and Yoda writer.
Well done, Tim.
Explores black, queer and feminist politics. They emphasis on they.
I was confused enough already from the picture. Now,
well,
now
people noticed that they had a mustache.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
they wrote and performed in season 3 of Black Comedy. You know that show, that ABC show, Black Comedy, which is an Aboriginal themed comedy show where they had a segment where they had an all Aboriginal panel debating the question whether white people were seen next Tuesdays.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yes, in 2018...
And we paid for it.
In 2018, they were named as a Wheeler Centre Next Chapter recipient and are currently working on a book of essays. Now,
has it been confirmed whether she's been co-opted has it been confirmed whether she's been co-opted by the Movember movement this
yes,
time around?
But it's interesting. Naoka is a they, but works on feminist politics.
Oh, right.
Oh, well, there are male feminists out there, of course. Wait, she's not male, though. They isn't.
Is she an ally? Is she an ally? She must be an ally, then.
Yeah. Now, I'd actually thought I'd seen them before, and I just did a bit of a searching back, and this is from Hack Live in 2016. They are there. There's Tom Tilley and there's Blair Cottrell there.
Yes. Yeah.
So they were put on there to basically say to Blair, yeah.
I mean, them. That's them.
Them.
Was she a her back then?
Yeah.
I mean, was they a her? Was they a her?
That's dead pronouning.
I'm really trying. It's just. It's the problem I have is that I love the English language, and I'm a writer and I read literature. And when these identity movements come along and demand that I start calling they them, and it f's up my grammar, my brain just glitches. I'm not trying to dead name anyone, but I just can't do it.
Well, we're in Victoria, where Fiona Patton's Universal Hate Speech Bill is currently before a committee which would make a civil offence to offend or ridicule somebody based on gender identity. So we're just preempting that bill. But yes, they were put on that panel with Blair to basically say, how can you say that this is your country?
And Blair destroyed them. If anybody here hasn't seen that,
very well.
Go watch that video. It is just amazing stuff. There's a reason why he is not allowed on mainstream media television. Because
except in the third person, right? Because they love putting him up as the poster child. Because they've like we were talking about Richard Spencer before, where the media grabs a figure that they can easily get the sound bites from, distort, the toxic masculinity stuff. Blair is really easy for them to recreate in whatever image they want. So they've made him into the big, scary, masculine Nazi guy.
As long as they don't let him speak, yeah.
Yeah, and everyone, who doesn't know him and hasn't spoken to him and hasn't investigated, people who get their idea of who Blair is from the mainstream media, they fear him. They believe he's this scary Nazi guy. And, that was all I knew about him. So that's why I had him on my show to chat to him, because I want to find out for myself. He's a very reasonable, very, very easy to get along with, very polite guy. He's, he communicates very well. I don't agree with absolutely everything he says, of course, but he's not the guy they paint him to be. And of course, because he performed so well on that panel, that was like, no, we can't ever get him on again. And that was why they had to fire, was Adam, who was that?
Adam Giles on Sky News, because Adam Giles didn't push back against him. The questions were too friendly, but
it was a conversation.
What I love about his appearance on Sky News, that like he had one interview on Sky News and they said, we'd like to make you a regular contributor. And that was before, the Twitter, the Twitter war started. So, how much of a plug on your resume is that? Like, you go along for one interview with a mainstream media organization, and they say, "Can we make you a regular contributor?" That's how good that guy is. That's why they have to silence him.
And compare it to Sky News, to Q&A on Monday night. In that interview with Adam Giles, Blair didn't propose harming anybody in the slightest.
Yeah, he's a total cuck.
But Fran Kelly, when Mona said maybe we started to need killing men,
she's like, oh, that's a good suggestion.
No, she said, oh, them fighting words.
Yeah.
The Spectator has said that you're promoting violence. That sounds like that. And so she went on to say, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. But Fran Kelly, she didn't. Well, it was they all agreed with each other, and Fran Kelly, she didn't challenge them at all. She just basically was like, it's your turn to speak, your turn to speak. Didn't say anything. Men were allowed to ask questions, but they weren't allowed to be on the panel. It was actually a man who asked the question on violence. So
when do we get the all-male panel on Q&A, where no women are allowed to be on the panel? Are we going to have one of those?
It'll happen.
What about the white people panel, when no person of color is allowed? What about the straight panel, when no homosexuals are allowed? Are we going to have that on Q&A?
It'll happen the week after they declare that war they want.
Yeah. Oh, have you heard today?
1 week.
They've announced the new permanent host of Q&A, because Tony Jones is moving to, I think, the United States to be with his wife, Sarah Ferguson.
Everyone's running off to the US.
So they've replaced John Fane with Emma Alberici, I think.
Sorry? They've John Fane with Virginia Triolo.
They all look the same. And so they're replacing two major male hosts with women.
Hamish McDonald. He's just been announced today as the new permanent host of Q&A. He's one of the project occasional co-hosts.
Weren't you just saying it was
that'll be good.
Replaced him?
Sorry?
Weren't you just saying that they've replaced Tony Jones with a woman?
No. Oh, well, Hamish McDonald is a queer, so...
Oh, there you go.
But yes, Hamish McDonald's big exclusive this year was, of course, the first interview with Egg Boy after...
All right,
yeah. But I got to say, the one positive thing is, like, I don't watch anything from ABC until you guys tell me I have to as research for an Uncuckables episode. And so when I clicked on that awful panel of psychopathic banshees that they aired,
it ruined my day
recently.
Basically. I was having a good Monday until I saw that, because I didn't want to watch Paul Murray because he's become a bit of a soft conservative himself. And so I switched it over to Q&A. Maybe there'll be a bit more fireworks than that. And then I was just like, this is like, they're probably proud that it's torturous TV. They're like, haha, we're torturing men with our calls to violence.
James, were you about to say
it would have ruined my day if I hadn't read the comment section and just seen that, like, top to bottom, it's, the Australian people are absolutely fed up of this bullshit. And there's a tiny minority of isolated, well-to-do socialist retards who watch ABC, but the average Australian is waking up. And, I honestly, the best thing the ABC can do is just keep going, go deeper, go harder, push harder.
Their acceleration is
Australia is waking up, and you guys go onto YouTube. Everyone at home, go onto YouTube after this and check out the comment section and maybe leave some comments. But people just going, we need to can the ABC. This is treason. They're psychopaths. Look, like, people can see through it. And everyone in that studio, they're all vetted and selected because they'll agree and they'll play
pre-approved
nice
questions, because you can't just randomly... it's not an impromptu one. That's why.
Well, it's not yet. It's not yet until we get some sleeper agents in there.
Maybe Turning Point. Maybe Turning Point USA. They could learn a bit from Q&A's production team. Make sure all the questions are pre-approved.
The other thing that we really need to point out about what was going on Q&A. So these women were advocating violence to achieve a political end. And that is the definition of terrorism. So
yes,
the ABC, our stolen money funded program, had people advocating terrorism, and they did not push back against that.
And it is especially dangerous given that we just had the IMARC protest the week before by the local Socialist Alternative and Socialist Alliance, where they believed that it was their free speech and civil disobedience to not just block people from getting in, but of course yell and attempt to spit on them, of course assault police and assault police horses, and claim, you saw what was his name again? Jacob Andrew-Worth interview with Andrew Bolt, where he's like, democracy is about mass mobilization, and he basically said it should be mob rule.
Now, I'm going to throw in something here that's controversial. It's doubtless controversial for some people, but the question that was asked directly about violence, the guy was saying, when does it become okay to end the conversation, stop using arguments and rhetoric and dialectic, and move into violent action to achieve your political ends? And the answer given and doubled down on and tripled down on was when those other things stop working. And unfortunately, it's 100% true. And I'm not saying it's morally good. I'm not saying it's morally good to use violence. I'm not saying it's preferable to use violence. But the truth is, if any movement, left or right, wants to actually achieve dominance and steer the culture and steer the country in the direction that they want to, then eventually there's a breaking point where they realize words are not working anymore. It's time for violence. And the left figured this out a long time ago. And we on the right are very, very slow because, that's what we are. We're about Christian values. We're about turning the other cheek and being slow to anger. And all of these things that have built Western civilization, these qualities in us are working against us because they're on our national television, funded by our tax, saying it's okay to kill us because we're straight white males. That is an invitation to war. Where do we go from here? Yeah. Well, let's argue back. It's insanity. And I don't want it to go there, but it's the only place it can go. It will go to violence. It will turn to civil war. It's just a matter of when. I don't know.
Well, there are so many different potential sparking points, like the world over. Like I'm making the point that in America you've got clashes between right-wing protesters and the far left, and that's in a country where people have ready access to semi-automatic weapons. It will take one far left protester to shoot.
You two are not allowed to have this conversation, but the socialists are.
Yes, it will. Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. And the flashpoints are going to happen as you say, in so many different places, and that's what it will be. Is like it's not going to be. We're not a unified right. There are so many factions on both sides of politics. There's no unified army that's going to declare war, send that document, to the leader of the left and say, we accept your declaration of war, and now we'll meet you on the battlefield at the MCG and we'll slug it out, old school. It's not going to go that way. It's going to be, tragically, I don't want it to be, and if you're thinking about doing this, don't do it, but it's going to be Christchurch incidents on repeat.
Yeah,
in all different directions, left on right, right on left, Christian on Muslim. Like it's going to just be chaos, but it's not going to be everywhere.
Well, I don't want that to happen.
It'll look like Bosnia.
No sane person wants that to happen.
It'll look like Bosnia. Yeah.
Let's also remember that was ABC Monday night. What happened the night before when ABC News Melbourne, their lead story was about the police officer who was under investigation for doing the OK sign, and they interviewed left-wing activist Tom Tanuki, who'd discovered that this police officer had shared the NPC meme and Pepe the Frog. Of course, they didn't use Tom Tanuki's real name, which is Thomas Stevens, and that he is the leader of Yelling at Racist Dogs, which yells abuse at people simply exercising free speech and democratic rights on public and private property.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's also
fat. The mainstream media is the left's weapon. So what are they going to do? Of course, they're going to use it.
And of course they basically showed what Slack Bastard had shared earlier on the Daily's page. They showed the police officer doing the OK sign, and then they showed Blair doing it, and then they showed Neil doing it, and then they showed Brenton Tarrant doing it. And that Slack Bastard had just
3 stages of separation from a mass murderer.
Yeah, Slack Bastard had just shared like those exact images about 5 hours before that aired.
I mean,
coincidence?
The thing is,
no,
they're just
not. Yeah,
they're just doubling down for the people who already believe the bullshit, and most people don't. Most people, most average Australians, the people who can actually get stuff done, the hardworking, working class Australians. they don't buy it. Nobody buys it. These media organizations are running out of money. There's no way they can ever win on logic or reason or arguments, and so they use the lie as long as they need to, and now they're out there openly calling for violence. They're out there openly doing violence for years now, staging these counter protests or these protests where it always turns rough. And again, this is not in any way advocacy for violence, but the truth is, if you're a rational person who knows anything about history and who can see the patterns of human behavior, we're headed for a lot more violence. We're headed for a total social decay eventually. Not everywhere. It won't be exactly the same in every part of Australia. I mean, if you don't want to be part of that street war, get out of the city. Yeah. Get out of Melbourne, get out of Sydney. They're not good places to be, and they're only going to degenerate more and more. So if you want to be left alone and you don't want to be part of it, and I don't think being part of it is a good idea or something proud or noble, because it's not going to be won overnight. Again, we're not going to have a unified patriotic army who stand in lockstep and fight back the teeming horde of leftist zombies. It's not going to happen that way. It's going to be random chaos, violence, death, and destruction. And there's going to be people in the police and the military who are on our side and people who are on the other side. And you're not going to be. It's going to be fourth generation warfare, and you're not going to be able to dependably rely on any of the things that we consider to be the normal rules of war.
I'll miss the indoor plumbing too. Yeah,
we've got a few super chats to get through, which is great. Hopefully we can have have you seen Nick Fentus's super chat overload, where he's like, there's 2 hours of super chats I've got to read, I can't read them all. But
fail. What a failure. I'm glad we're small.
Yes, but I've still got a bit of a list to get through. Nick Heath, he's feeling very generous towards us tonight.
Champion.
Thank you very much. Yeah. He's sent us another one for $10. These feminists need to go. Yes, they need to go off our screens for a start, our taxpayer-funded screens. He's also said in another
off our island would be good.
$10 US super chat. She should be arrested. Well, Mona Ethway, how did she get a visa to be in Australia?
Yeah, well, that's why I was sort of doing that preamble before you read out what was in her book. Because if you consider people like Milo wasn't allowed in again,
Gavin McInnes, David Icke.
Yep, you could just go through a list of all these people who are they were denied access on security grounds. She has openly called for the killing of 1 million men, but they let her in and they let her speak on our taxpayer-funded ABC.
And the final one of Nick Heath, he sent through another US $10. We may have allowed too much latitude. Well, we haven't. Certainly the mainstream elites who control the media and government have allowed too much latitude. And then we've got...
well, that's the thing about elites, is there's a lot fewer of them than us everyday people. So I think we have allowed this. We this is the thing, is it's very tempting. It's always very tempting to deflect responsibility. Oh, it's the Jews. Oh, it's the elite. Oh, it's the mainstream media. But at the end of the day, it's we the people who can choose to take different actions to prevent these things from happening. And I think just as a man, I have to take responsibility for everything that I can in my life and in my world. And so the degree to which we tolerate this nonsense is on us. We have to take responsibility, otherwise nothing will change.
And final super chat we've got in the queue is from Paulie, you're a stooge, Falzoni.
I think it might be the commenter and super chatter formerly known as Radical Islamophobe. Thank you
for
again.
50 Canadian dollars. Thank you very much. New Clown World menu. Vegan, woke, cardboard, soy, feminism is cancer pizza, rational rise, far right, white supreme, pizza, Epstein didn't kill himself, pedo, pizza, P.S. grab the chainsaw stooges. Oh, and
Love
just
it.
then,
Thank you.
we've got...
he's Radical Islamophobe.
Radical Islamophobe is sent through just right then. $50 US. Thank you for your generosity.
Oh, wow.
When is Dave going to have his own show? I like what he has to say.
Champion.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we need more Dave. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll
Well,
just
we've
live
fixed the
stream every day.
microphone now, so you should be able to speak better.
Hey guys, I've got to jump off, and I think you've got somebody calling in. Old
Oh,
Senator Slayer is going to call in for a chat, so it's probably good timing for me to say goodnight. Not because I don't like Neil or want to get into a chat with him, but my wife is waiting.
Yes, you've got that thing called a family, which we're told not to have.
It's a good thing. You should get some of those, bros.
Yeah. I hear it's accused.
I hear it's accused a family.
What's that? You're both talking at once.
Go with Tim.
How do you create a family?
I think. Well, when a man loves a woman very much.
Yeah, it involves some penetration of a ring on a finger, and then the rest follows. Yeah.
That's a
Cheers.
trad way to put it.
Yes, absolutely. No, that's the truth. See you guys. Thanks for having me, and thanks to everyone watching at home. Thanks to all the generous donors tonight. It's amazing.
Yes,
it's great
thank you very much.
This as it grows.
It's the groyper white pills. That's what's inspired everyone.
That's right. Keep on groyping, everyone. It's giving us the courage for what is coming.
All right. Have a good night, James.
See you, James.
Later. Good night.
We got Neil calling in right now.
Hang on, I've just got to get rid of this Skype.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. You put it up to... Don't you know how to point a phone to the microphone?
Not really. I'm a boomer tech.
Yeah. Hello?
G'day, Neil. You're on the air.
You put it ass to mouth. The ass of the phone to the mouth of the mic.
Got it. How's it going?
You're cashed up tonight.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's the groyper white pill boost.
You've tapped into something special, mate. Anyway, guys, I was calling up, obviously, Phil Gallier, he's on terrorism charges. If you don't know, Phil, he was a patriot from back in 2015. He was arrested for terrorism charges. I went to his case last week, and I went into the court. As I got up to the door of the court case, there's a A4 piece of paper on the door stating that you can't talk about any of the witnesses. You can't mention the witnesses' names. I've got to be careful what I say, but you can't mention too many of the witnesses at all in public, and you also can't mention what they say in court. And this ends not when the court case has ended, it ends when they die. It's literally written in the description. This gag order ends when they die. So it's still an open court. The gallery can actually still witness what's going on to Phil. I went inside, I was wearing a suit and I was behaving myself. I sat in there for 3 hours of witness testimony. I can't get into it, but at some point the judge looked to the jury, kicked the jury out of the courtroom, kicked all of us out of the courtroom, and 10 minutes later a lawyer was sent out by the judge to me personally. And mind you, I haven't told anyone who I am. And a lawyer came out and said, the judge wants you to leave. Would you mind voluntarily leaving? Because there's some sensitive information coming out in the court case, which is weird because it's an open court. I said, no, I'm not going to leave. I'm going to continue to watch in the gallery, because the whole point of a gallery in a court case is to avoid corruption or to avoid things being kept in the dark. So I said, no, I'm not going to leave. And she goes, all right, give me 10 minutes. She goes back into the courtroom, and then the judge calls me, and I had to stand before the judge. And mind you, I haven't said who I am. She says, Mr. Erickson, you can't talk about the witnesses or the testimony. I said, yes, Your Honour, I know about that. I knew that before I come into the case. Then she gave me an order to leave the court case. I can't come back to the court case and witness the trial of a man's life for 30, 40 years, and everyone else can come back in and view it. So anyone in support, not even in support, I'm not even in support of Phil, but anyone who might be critical of the process can't even witness the actual court case.
That's a new level of speech
that explains
suppression.
Because when the trial started, there was a lot of media coverage, but I remember you gave us an update. It was about 3 episodes ago. We haven't heard any media reporting since then, which I guess explains that. But it's a bit confusing that you can hear the evidence in the courtroom, but it's suppressed. I'm not sure how they did it, because George Pell's trial, that was all suppressed. I'm not sure how you're allowed to be in the courtroom, whether they had a public gallery or something like that. But it's interesting that that's because there's been the big freedom of the press campaign by all the mainstream media, which it's mainly about national security laws. They want journalists to be exempt from them, but they haven't said anything about court suppression orders, which are handed out quite frequently.
Oh yeah. Like this is pretty standard during a trial. It's pretty standard to have a non-published account of what happens in court, of witnesses and testimony, etc. They also have an open gallery, so you can sit there and view it, but you can't actually like write it on the internet or tell people publicly or write it in a newspaper. But this is different because it's actually a public court. The court actually hasn't been closed down. It's just anyone who might be critical or might look into what's really going on here. And I can't talk about the witness testimony. I won't say anything. But what are they trying to hide? You know, that's what I'm trying to find out. What is the big issue here? If the guy is charged with terrorism and they've got enough evidence, why are they hiding it? Why don't they want someone listening? And it seemed to be like they didn't want certain information to get out into nationalist circles. Had nothing to do with publishing. They don't want us to know what happened during that time.
Well, it's because there hasn't been any media reports on it. It's still, well, as far as you can say, it hasn't finished yet.
No, well, I don't know. I'm not allowed to go back to court apparently
Well, I
until
guess
the witnesses are finished.
The accredited media will tell us when it's concluded, I guess.
Yeah, but they won't. That's the thing. This suppression order, this lasts until they die.
Yeah, but isn't it just related to the witness, not the actual
the witness and the witness testimony. There's a multitude amount of witnesses.
No, I'm talking about the eventual jury verdict and sentence.
Yeah, that will come out. We'll get the sentence.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You won't get to hear the witnesses'
Well,
evidence.
I'm just saying that that's when we'll hear from the mainstream media next about the trial. That's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, look, this stinks, man. Look, I'm not too sold on whether he's guilty or innocent, but I just find this whole process fascinating. And if this is going to be the landmark case to basically paint all of us nationalists as terrorists, I want to be able to go in and hear the evidence, and I think we all should have a right to hear the evidence and have some sort of eye into what actually went on. But anyway, guys, I just thought I'd give you an update on Phil, and I feel sorry for the guy, I really do. I spoke to him for a good probably 10 minutes before the judge walked in. He's been in solitary confinement for 3 years. Everybody's forgotten about him. So I just want a few people out there to try and attend his court case and try and put some ears on what's going on. I don't want this to be some sort of Soviet-style underground court case, if you know what I mean.
Well, we shall see, hopefully, eventually, what the finding is.
Exactly. Also, that Wog's been texting me for the past hour. He wants to get on. That Wog original.
Oh, the north of the Mediterranean one.
Yeah, the brown one, the southern group.
Well, he can call in via Skype. He's got our Skype contact.
All right, mate. I'll leave you to it. Good show. Peter Grace wet himself just like Epstein didn't kill himself. All right, catches.
Cheers, Neil.
Oh, so that was interesting to hear. Oh, he said, I never said I wanted to go on, lol, this is Stefanos, all good fellas, next time I'm eating Oreos and I haven't shaved.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, we've got another super chat, another one from Nick Heath, US $10. Thank you so much. When are you hateful...
When you are a hateful feminist, shouldn't they afford the same? Or is the legal system illegal?
Well, that's the thing. Like, shouldn't those be charged like the ones? So because the Aboriginal person said that start burning shit.
Yes. They're openly advocating violence. They're inciting violence.
Yeah, and Mona, like,
and we know that the left are crazy. So wouldn't like a crazy leftist like act on their instructions?
Yeah, how do you know that there's not going to be some warped feminist or male feminist who's going to...
It'll likely be the male feminist, yeah.
Yeah, who'll carry out... because it's basically, how is Mona's book different from a terrorist manifesto?
Yeah, well, it is a terrorist manifesto.
But it got published by a major publishing house.
Yeah.
She's got lots of interviews about it, and of course was granted a visa to Australia. And this is the thing that... And even the mainstream conservatives like Andrew Bold and Chris Kenny are sort of like, what are you doing, Morrison government, in the culture wars? You're just letting, you're not doing anything about the ABC. They announced today a new drought package, which is basically a whole bunch more money, loans, and community grants. How about you dismantle the Murray-Darling Basin Authority so they stop flushing water out to sea for the good of the environment? Like, why don't you do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, this is the thing. They can do stuff. They're the government. But they don't want to do it.
What are you talking about? You're making no sense, Tim. It's so true. So true.
Like, they don't even know what their bureaucrats are doing. And they this is the thing I was talking about the other week, that independent decisions means unaccountable decisions by unelected people.
Yeah. I love how every time as well, every time a new chairman of the ABC comes in, people are like, oh, this one will shake things up, and then next minute, no.
Ida Buttrose was supposed to be, because everyone loves Ita.
Yeah.
But there was a statement this afternoon by the managing director of the ABC, David Anderson, who, well, everyone just knows that Ida's the chairperson or chairwoman. But this is, a statement regarding Q&A episode number 4.
Oh, yes.
Monday night's episode of Q&A was presented in conjunction with the Wheeler Centre's Feminist Ideas Festival Broadside, funded by the taxpayers, of course. The intention of the program was to present challenging ideas from high-profile feminists whose expertise range across ageism, disability, Indigenous and domestic violence issues. ABC acknowledges that the program was provocative in regard to the language used and some of the views presented. Q&A has always sought to tackle difficult issues and present challenging and thought-provoking content. However, I can understand some viewers found elements of this episode confronting or offensive.
Confronting, they love that word.
Yeah.
It makes it sound like, you're just getting a little bit upset. You need to be more tolerant.
We have received audience complaints about the program and are assessing the concerns raised and will investigate whether the program met the ABC's editorial standards.
They're investigating. Yeah, they should all be arrested.
Jared Henderson, he was on the Bolt Report Tuesday night, and he writes tons of complaints to the ABC because he runs the Media Watchdog blog, which is actually like a proper independent watchdog media platform.
I would be interested to watch the ABC's Media Watch this week, just to see what they say about it. That could be quite interesting.
Jared Henderson said that 97% of complaints directed at the ABC are dismissed by their complaints department in Canberra. And if you complain to ACMA, the Australian Communications Media Authority, ABC has 60 days to respond, and then ACMA assesses their response whether there's a further investigation needed.
So it's pretty slow, you're saying? Yeah, I remember hearing about this a while ago. Yeah, it's deliberately slow. Yeah.
But like I said, it should become a criminal matter, and the fact that it's happening this weekend. Mona Ethway is speaking at the Wheeler Centre, courtesy of the City of Melbourne and our Lady Lord Mayor Sally Capp.
Yeah.
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 So nothing.
So what you're saying is that we know where she's going to be at a certain time in a certain place.
Well, I'm saying she's still here. She's still here. Like, there hasn't been David Coleman, who's the immigration minister, and Peter Dutton, who's the home affairs minister. They haven't said anything. There was just a statement of condemnation from Erica Betts and Craig Pally, who, of course, are just bitter conservative backbenchers.
Yeah, they're not tolerant enough. They object to people saying that they should be killed. Yeah.
We've got another super chat from Nick Heath for $10. Thank you so much. Are they the government? You think he's referring to the Morrison government.
Yeah. Well, they're not doing much about it.
No.
Yeah. How about we let's read out some of these questions, and then I reckon we should call it a night.
We've still got. I'll just check the running sheet while you read out these questions.
Yeah, we don't have to go over everything. From Peter Grace, Lavon Affair.
No.
We've already done that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there any push? This is from Zero Tolerance. Was there any pushback from the audience? Any pushback from the audience regarding on the Q&A panel? I don't think there was. On the footage, that when the guy asks at what point is violence okay, like as these ladies, and I use the term very loosely, responding in the affirmative,
biological females.
Yes, you can actually see there's a woman like next to the guy who asked the question, and she's just nodding along, going, yes. Like agreeing with them that.
Was he the one, or was a different man who said, "Oh, but aren't you not much better than the people you rage against?" And that's when Mona said, "Oh, I'm sick of when they aim low, we go high. No, I'm sick of playing by these moralistic rules."
Yeah. Well, duly noted. Duly noted.
Nick Heath has sent through $25. Thank you so much. Is the government, and are they illegal? Well, we've talked about how in the UK they, there's finally going to be a general election in the UK, that they were probably going to arrest Boris Johnson if the UK crashed out of the European Union on October 31st without a deal, because the High Court of the United Kingdom said that the Queen does not have absolute power, which she does.
Keep reading.
What's Paulie, you're a stooge, Felzoni. Is Macca's still the food of the alt-right? If not, Fat Pizza is reopened for business, you stooge. Do you think that this is that actually Paulie Fennick promoting Fat Pizza in our show? Because
I would love it if it was. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I hope that is that. Yeah, they're wanting our audience to watch Fat Pizza when it comes back.
I've got a lot of time for Paulie. The way that, I love telling the story about the way that he trolled the short film festival. But,
we should also mention that next Monday, 11th of November, that's when Blair Cottrell's blasphemy appeal finally begins at the county court.
On Remembrance Day, huh?
Yes,
yeah, okay.
By the chief judge of the county court, Peter Kidd. He was the one who presided over George Pell's both his trials, because the first one was a hung jury, then they had a retrial which found him guilty.
Yeah, right.
And sentenced him to 6 years jail.
So this judge, because I know there were 3 judges.
No, that was the appeal.
Okay.
That was the appeal. The original trial was in the county court. You're thinking of the Court of Appeal decision. Yeah, because the original county court judge, Lisa Hannon, she received a promotion to Chief Magistrate of the Victorian Magistrates Court, so she could no longer hear the case when it was scheduled for August 12th. So it's finally happening.
Okay. You got any more things that we really need to talk about?
Well, I mentioned the UK election. I love how Jeremy Corbyn is. Have you seen how he's getting trolled?
No, I haven't.
Well, there was a guy, a 15-year-old Thomas Chambers, wanted to get his signature, and he got him to sign a document with him in a communist outfit. I support terrorists, I'm an anti-Semite, and I am on Iran TV payroll.
Yeah, good.
And,
so our trolls are coming to life, huh?
And
our memes are coming to life.
Boris Johnson is going full out, all out a political punch on with Jeremy Corbyn. This was on the front of their Daily Telegraph. The tragedy of the modern Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn is that they detest the profit motive so vigorously. They point their fingers at individuals with relish and a vindictiveness not seen since Stalin persecuted the kulaks.
Yeah, good on him. England basically has the choice between freedom and their own country back, and basically full communism and starvation. Because the Labour Party, they are really going full communism. They want to nationalise a whole range of things. They want to they want to basically ban private education. I think they've sort of figured that the time is now, basically, for them to just go, right, it's let's wrap this up.
Nick Heath has sent another super chat for US $25. Are our judges legitimate? Well, they're appointed by the state and federal attorney generals, and then they're in that position for life, except the justices of the High Court of Australia. They've got compulsory retirement when they turn 70, which is actually in the Constitution. It was a constitutional amendment that passed. So we don't have a situation like in the US where Ginsburg is 86, and everyone's sort of...
Is she still alive?
Yeah, she is. I think maybe there's the progressive transhumanists there. They're wanting to turn her into a cyborg.
Yeah, they want to keep her alive as long as possible. I reckon we've gone long enough, Tim. I reckon we wrap it up.
Yep. We pretty much covered it. Oh, we didn't cover... Do you want to go a bit over Margaret Court? Because that just broke today. So Margaret Court was back in the news. So she is the most successful tennis player in world history. No player, male or female, has won more Grand Slams, including her 4 Grand Slams in a calendar year in 1969. So she said to Tennis Australia, I want you to honour me on the 50th anniversary of my Grand Slam the same way you honoured Rod Laver last year.
It's a pretty good troll, because she knows that she's on the outer because she opposes sodomy.
Yes.
But she is a woman, so she has them in a bind. It's a great wedge. It's a great political
wedge. She
wedge.
runs the Victory Life Church in Perth, which actually has multiple churches now, because she hasn't obviously been deplatformed because they want to move to a bigger church now. So it's obviously she's got a lot of followers.
Well, you're basically backing up what James Higgins was saying, and like what I say on a regular basis. The people who, like these SJWs, they're an absolute minority. The majority of Australians are on the side of people like Margaret Court. Yeah. And
if you compare it to somebody like Israel Folau, obviously Israel Folau, his Instagram post was quite fire and brimstone, but Margaret Court, in her public statements, tries to be as respectful as possible, which is like, I love everybody, I don't hate gay people. There's even some in my church. I just believe that marriage is between man and woman. I don't think that we should be transitioning children and have all this safe schools. And if you watch,
according to SJWs, like
because she has a podcast on her YouTube channel, and it's basically just her talking about the power of prayer. It's basically theological stuff. She hardly comments about social issues, but the reason why she does make political statements is because she's married to Barry Court, who is the brother of the former Premier of Western Australia, Richard Court, and the son of another former Premier, Charles Court. So there's sort of that political connection. And then, of course, if you're as James would argue, that being a Christian is political. And so obviously she is more about the theology, the power of prayer, but she does get involved when she needs to. But most of the time she just focuses on her church and her congregation and her charity work, because her church does do a lot of charity work. I mean, and obviously
do they still have the arena named after her?
Yes, it's still named after her. Okay, good. Obviously there's been a campaign, I think, for nearly a decade now for it to be taken down. But yeah, she should be given because, like, you know, homophobe or not, she's the greatest tennis player of all time.
No, yeah. I just think it's a brilliant wedge. Good on her.
Yeah, so she's yes. We'll see how Tennis Australia respond, because she's basically been as reasonable as possible. Hey, I'm just asking for the same treatment.
Yeah.
And you also wrote about, speaking of women's sports, that Matilda's got equal pay.
Yeah, it was a bit of a troll, but it makes a point, and it goes along with what James was talking about. Just the other day on the ABC, you had women calling for murdering men, terrorism against men, and then a few days later, the Matildas get equal pay with
the
Socceroos.
Matildas haven't called for that.
No, but the point is that the powers that be cave to groups whom they fear. That's why I made the point back when Carl Sandilands had to back off about his comments about the Virgin Mary. It wasn't the fact that it was Lebanese Christians protesting outside his office. It was the fact that it was Lebanese Muslims protesting outside the Kiss FM studios. Nobody wants to offend Muslims because we know that Muslims will kill you. What we're talking, I'm making the connection here that we know that the feminist movement is getting increasingly aggressive, and you have people actually openly calling for murder. Obviously, my article was a little bit of a troll, but the point is here that people understand that if you cross feminists, that if you go against SJW orthodoxy on the pay gap, on all these sorts of things, these people will destroy you. They'll ruin your life, and so they've basically caved to pressure, to aggression.
The US women's soccer team, they're still lobbying for equal pay.
Yeah, that just means that we're further down the road of degeneracy and just.
The US women's soccer team, they won the World Cup.
Yeah, I know.
But you notice that
hilarious,
notice how that in the men's World Cup, there's a lot of African and Middle Eastern nations in the World Cup, but it's the Australian and US women's teams, not just in soccer but in all sports, that are the best, because obviously a lot of those African and Middle Eastern nations, they don't exactly encourage women's participation in sports.
Yeah.
Or encourage women's participation in society at all.
Yeah. It just shows, like, because the debate is like the hottest here in Australia and in America. We're the most cucked. Yeah.
Have you watched women's soccer?
No.
Oh, okay.
As I was saying the other day, I didn't even know what's her name? The Australia's best soccer player.
Sam Kerr.
Yeah, I didn't even know what she looked like. So.
She's the brother of Daniel Kerr, who was a famous...
the West Coast player.
Yeah, West Coast Eagle from 2006.
He was an absolute brute in the midfield, yeah, right.
Yeah, so obviously sports talent runs in the family.
I wouldn't say talent.
She plays in the women's Major League Soccer in the US.
Yeah, well, because, it's just watch the footage of the female soccer players' bloopers. It's very, very... It's just beautiful.
Well, there's been some shockers in the men's one as well.
Yeah, but the women take it to a whole nother level.
Well, maybe with this equal pay package, it'll attract more high quality female players.
No.
Sorry, I couldn't
You're hurting
resist.
my brain.
I couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
But let's wrap it up now. Yeah. That's all the major things. We've summarised the groyper war. Oh yeah, the other thing, Labor released their election review today.
Who cares?
Well, they actually did say that Bill Shorten was unpopular.
Yeah, they acknowledged
and
that. I did find that funny because you had Penny Wong acknowledging that, and I'm like, love, you're like even more unpopular than Bill Shorten. Like, if anybody is unpopular, it's Penny Wong.
and they also said that their policies were unpopular in the seats that they didn't win.
Hey, they've discovered logic, huh?
But apparently, they were so cocky they were going to win. That's what's revealed in the report, that they were so certain they were going to win.
Yep.
And because remember that Bill Shorten, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it's a story that circulated that he called Scott Morrison and say he wanted a smooth transition of power.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. So, well, everyone's hoping that this report that Bill Shorten will never be leader again.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. He's just a disgusting individual. Like, you look at him and you look at the way that he speaks, and just the fact that I'm glad that the allegations against him surfaced just before the election campaign as well, because I was really worried about an alleged rapist becoming the Prime Minister of Australia. And it's important just to.
But remember when he was under investigation? The media they didn't report on it until he was cleared. Do you remember that?
I've stopped listening. Sorry.
They didn't reveal, the mainstream media, that Bill Shorten was under a raping investigation until Victoria Police cleared him.
Yes.
So they suppressed it. They didn't report it.
Yeah.
I don't believe, not to my knowledge, they were under a suppression order because it was a police investigation, but they chose not to report it, which is sort of similar to what ABC News and Epstein, and of course NBC News with the Harvey Weinstein story. Because remember that he's written a book on it. Now he had to go to the New Yorker to publish the thing on Weinstein.
And it's been mentioned as well that the mainstream media has seemed to be incredibly tight-lipped about the name and the identity of the second whistleblower in the
well, they won't even name the first whistleblower.
Yeah.
Because apparently he might be in danger, even though he's got all the deep state protection.
Yeah. The media can be very tight-lipped when it's in their interests.
You know that with the Epstein didn't kill himself meme, now people are starting to share Vegas massacre memes because they're wondering how did this random no-name person get such high-powered weapons, and yet in the hotel room there was not much there.
Yeah.
So that's
I've seen those
because
it's good that they're just questioning the mainstream narrative on a regular basis.
Well, because they've had success with the Epstein meme, that they're now moving on. Okay, we want these other questions answered now.
Well, that's how the red pill works, isn't it? Like one little pillar falls and then there's another. It's just a series of dominoes. Once that logic starts,
someone should ask Charlie Kirk about that. What would he say about that?
About the Las Vegas massacre. Yeah.
Another super chat from Nick Heath.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
And are they legitimate?
Yeah,
let's
wrap it up.
Before.
Let's wrap it up.
Artnick76 has asked a question: how does anal sex help win the culture war? Well, I don't think it's. I'm not sure who said that that's how you win the culture war. Like, how does fornication? How does fornication?
No, they actually asked them. That was one of the questions.
Yeah, I know, but did Charlie Kirk ever say that anal sex wins the culture war?
Oh, but that's not really the point. Like, the point is that they're making it absolutely clear what sodomy is. Like, when we talk about LGBT rights, love is love, that gets to the heart of it. It's like this is actually what you're talking about.
Yeah. And what's he getting at, the rosary guy?
Well, that's the point of it. It's saying, okay, like I've written a piece where I was taking the piss, and I said, the LGBT activists, they want to change their flag from the rainbow flag to the brown flag.
the poo brown.
Yeah, basically.
Well, they want to put a poo brown stripe in it.
Yeah, but basically making the point, this is actually what you're talking about. Like, when you get down to the nuts and bolts, you're talking about anal sex. And how does that help us? It's disgusting.
Jimbo Jackson, he was the original person that asked it. All right, we'll wrap it up now. So another successful show, and we had probably our biggest live audience ever, which was impressive. So make sure that if you're not yet, you subscribe to the channel, click the bell to allow notifications, and also give this episode a thumbs up, comment below, and also share, because that all assists with breaking the Google YouTube algorithm, even though Hunter Avalon said that that's fake.
Yeah, I really appreciate everybody sticking through right to the end.
And of course, please
Much appreciated.
keep visiting the Unshackled.net because we've got a few new contributors. So we're regularly publishing daily once again, which is great because, of course, I'm busy with my Wilms Fund program, which is on, again, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Melbourne time. You can also check out the show website, timwilms.com, which has got a link to all of the podcasts and my social media links. And of course, my colleague Steel Archer, his Detonation program live most weekday mornings on the Detonation channel, and go to steelarcher.com to look up the archive of episodes. And of course, this Uncuckables show also has its website, theuncuckables.com. There's a PayPal donation form. There's also links to the podcasts, and you can also sign up for our newsletter and send us a message or tip. Or James is gone, but of course check out his rationalrise.com, rationalrisetv.com, which we're all a part of, and of course his YouTube channel, Rational Rise.
Come to the XYZ, xyz.net.au. Facebook is dying, so if you want to follow us on social media, come follow us on Gab, and we now have a Telegram channel as well. Also, as well as the XYZ Live that I do with Maddie Rose on Monday nights. I'm also doing a podcast with Mark Moncrief from Melbourne Traditionalists, which is worth checking out. It's a much shorter format. We just go for about 25 minutes to 30 minutes. And we just discuss one topic and sort of just pick it apart a little bit. And we've been having some pretty good discussions, so it's worth checking out as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right, good night, everybody. We will see you next Thursday for another Uncuckables. Good night.
Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself.
Remember that.
Yeah.
The Uncuckables.